what a wet, wild week in wrestling it already is. Some may call it the post-WrestleMania countdown, but that said, there's still a lot of grappling arts and sciences to suss through. Hello, everyone. You're locked into Draped and Gold, your one-stop shop of wrestling content. I'm Global Voice, but as always, I'm not alone. I'm being joined by the award-winning real Jack Farmer. What's up, man?
Yes, having a great time coming back from a championship wrestling taping out in Irvine and off to a Santino Brothers show tomorrow. I am in the middle of a pro wrestling sandwich, and what am I doing with my time? Talking about pro wrestling.
Yeah, that is totally a terrible thing to do if you want to have some kind of time off for yourself.
You know, this is the way men make sandwiches. You just make it with like meat, and that's all I'm having is meat.
Just meat. Remember they called them the old Dagwood sandwiches from the comic strips, like the ones that are like, you know, a foot high.
Speaking of old, man, you're quoting Dagwood.
I love the funny books. Okay, shout out to Blondie.
If you're in the chat, if you're in the comments, whatever, you got to acknowledge whether or not you even know the Dagwood reference.
No one knows a Dagwood reference.
You know, Denny's used to have a Dagwood sandwich that was delicious, but they got rid of it.
Oh, yeah, that definitely, because everyone pretty much probably died off. But Jack's right. If you're in the comments on that X or that YouTube or that Facebook, drop some comments and questions below as you go through the weekly notes of news and wrestling. We'll definitely break that down. And, hey, we have a podcast that's on those Apple Podcasts and Spotify. 5 stars, some comments. Let me know what you think about the show. We definitely read those reviews when they come in, right?
Yeah, I always read the reviews. In fact, I read them on air if they're 5-star and they sound nice. By the way, you know, I don't read the bad ones. I mean, who's going to read the bad ones? But if you say nice things, get your comment read on the air by Jack Farmer. Would love to do it. But again, like, comment, share, subscribe.
I, too, have a fragile ego. Shout out to everyone in chat right now. Chris Briggs, what up, fellas? Hey, Ricky Sinclair, fins up, says, they're trying to watch the Timberwolves versus the Lakers, and along comes Flobo and Jack. Are you a Lakers fan, Timberwolves fan, or just a playoff basketball fan? You let me know. And, yeah, Blondie. Blondie was one of the classic comic strips from back in the day. She was a looker. Winky, wink.
Chris Briggs, what's the name of your dog? Chris Briggs has a dog profile picture. I need to know. Name of the dog.
What's the name of your dog, Jack? How about that?
Brie, like the cheese.
Why'd you say it so defiant? It was like you were like Camembert, like the cheese. Like, it's Brie. Celtics. Okay, that's kind of like the opposite of the Dolphins, but respect. Dog named Roman. Chris Brick says
Roman.
I guess I'll throw it up. That said, man, we got to go to last week because we didn't have a chance to talk about this, but it definitely was a top story about 7 days ago that I still want your opinion on for some odd reason. And that is WWE this summer through Netflix is having a documentary about the creative process called WWE Unreal. So for anyone who's watched any of those sports documentaries on Netflix, they're pretty good of going inside the personalities, peeking back behind the curtain, Drive to Survive, the different Formula One, and so on and so forth. But this seems a bit different, Jack. I mean, knowing how the wrestling hot dog is made, is that really healthy for the business? What say you?
I hate this. I hate the idea of this. I hate it because I'm going to watch it. I hate it because I'm fascinated by it. But it's like I've always compared pro wrestling to magic in that you always want to know how it works. You want to know how the magician sawed the woman in half. You want to know how they were able to escape whatever escape they were in or make the Statue of Liberty disappear. But as soon as you know how they do it, it's no longer interesting. And that's the whole movie, The Prestige, was about that basically, is that once you figure out how the trick is done, the trick becomes kind of stupid. And so, yes, I want to know how they do it. Yes, I want to see this. But I know once I see it, it's going to kind of ruin how I view the shows. And unless they change their entire process afterwards, which would then ruin the whole idea. But like, I don't want to see how they do this. I don't want to see, if this was Marvel, I don't want to see the process they go through before they pick which storyline they're going to take from comics next. So I want the surprise. I want to guess what's next. And so, yes, I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to hate myself for watching it, but I hate the fact that they're doing it.
Well, let me before I comment how I feel about this. I gotta give a shout out to Gerald J. He dropped the $5 super chat. Thank you so much for all the pet owners. You know, I've never owned a pet because most pets terrify me. But if I did, I'd probably be a lizard guy. What say you? Well, you have a dog and a cat, right?
I have a dog and a cat. I had another dog previously who was just an incredible puppers, Russell. Yeah, I'm a big pet fan. I'm a big fan of adopting, and I am a big supporter of a program called Wags and Walks, which helps dogs find home. They're super busy right after the LA fires. There's a lot of displaced dogs looking for homes. So Wags and Walks, if you are in the Southern California area, check them out.
Well, you have been requested to bring Bree on the show at some point. But like I said, I'm terrified. So let me know, and I'll grab one of those like squeezy stress ball things to hold on to when you have her on the screen.
I will bring her on. She's in her crate now because she's a menace whenever I'm on the show. So
I have a baseball. All right, all right, there we go. Right, bring her on. Bring her on. As I talk about,
she's like in the other room. It's gonna take me a minute to go get her.
Oh God.
But I'll bring her on one of these times. She, like I said, she's a menace. Like she's the cutest dog in the world, an absolute menace.
You named her after cheese. It's kind of your doing.
To be fair, I didn't name her. We adopted her, and that's what her name was.
Damn, there goes my joke. So about WWE Unreal, I actually like the idea if it's kind of like the old unclassified documents, right? If the stories are old enough, that or like a year before or so, that'd be fine. But you're absolutely right. The process now, I do think, there really is a net benefit for any kind of wrestling fan. So definitely has to be for lapsed fans or people who aren't fans at all. So I guess it's going to be good because people will say, hey, look, I didn't think too much about wrestling, but I saw how it was made. I'll give it a shot. But I kind of wondered, are those fans are equal to people who grew up believing it's real and then learning it's not and becoming smart that way?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that I feel like will be interesting to people who are non-wrestling fans. Yeah, the people who it's something I could show, I think, to my friends who have always wondered why I'm into pro wrestling and kind of how it works. I think they'd be interested in how the storytelling works, how the writing works, and what goes into it. But yeah, once I know how the sausage is made, I'm going to look at WrestleMania 42 differently, and I'm going to be trying to go through this lens of what they have taught me in how they do it, and then it's going to become a whole thing where we know how wrestling fans, once they get an idea of what's supposed to happen and it doesn't happen that way, they get frustrated. So I feel like this is something it's like eating sugar, Flobo. Short term, it's going to be fantastic.
Okay.
Long term, it's going to make you fat.
And we don't want that. I thought you were going somewhere with it. You're like, nah, it's fat. That's right. Make sure
but it's delicious.
It is. I got a bad sweet tooth. The fact all I do is dream about donuts. In other news this week, which is kind of interesting because it was a tease that was going to be drawn out until it wasn't, Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan are collaborating again, as we saw through very black and white NWO stylized promos about getting a third man. In fact, a couple hours ago, I was going to ask you who you think the third man is. It's been revealed. It's going to be a Real American Freestyle Wrestling League, and got one of the most prolific names in there. Coach Izzy is going to be the third man for Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan. Let me start with this and saying, hey, look, I love business ventures. Eric Bischoff deserves to start as many businesses as he wants. To me, if you're going to do a wrestling league freestyle, why bother with pro wrestling promos? I want to know what you think about this because I thought the whole launch was weird.
So what is this exactly? Is this going to be like a UFC where we're having real matches, or is it going to be like a blood sport where it is presented one way, or is it going to just be another wrestling? What exactly is it?
So details are scarce, but it's the implication is that it'd be the next level for what we call amateur Greco-Roman wrestlers. Once they are done the Olympic circuit and they want to do it professionally, they will go into this wrestling league to wrestle like the classic Gabe Stevenson way.
So they are. I mean, I like the idea. So I like the idea that you're giving people options. And I think the idea of this kind of competition works. I think there's definitely a lane for it. I think they have someone who is talented enough as far as what they've been able to do in that world to help back them and get them the roster. If I'm trying to make a league like this, however, I don't know if I want someone like Hulk Hogan and pro wrestling attached to it, unless my goal is to build pro wrestlers. I think if you're having someone like Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff attached to it, it immediately makes you think, okay, well, this is not UFC. This is not Olympics. This is pro wrestling. and you're going to be fighting that on your own anyways. I mean, boxing, UFC, they're always fighting the is it rigged allegations. And now you have Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff behind it. It's absolutely going to be getting those allegations. So if it's supposed to be like the Olympics, if it's supposed to be like UFC, I don't know if I'd want Hulk Hogan cutting NWO promos about it. If it is supposed to be pro wrestling, then yeah, you got some people who've been in the business for a while, so that should help.
You sound over the moon. Just like, oh, that's something. If Hulk wants to do it, it's fine, I guess. All right.
Well, it's hard to get super pumped about something that details are scarce on.
What do you mean? That's what trailers all the time.
Hey, Flobo, do you want to invest in my company? What's it about? Details are scarce.
Sign me up.
You pumped?
I can't be any more of a bum than I am now. Take my last $20. Let's see where it goes.
Details are scarce. Is it too late to change the show's name?
Details are scarce. Yeah, if we need worse reviewers. Welcome back to We Don't Know. Yeah, I can't say I'm looking forward to it, but like I said, I like Eric Bischoff and I like the fact that he's out there still giving insight to a time period that was literally 30 years ago. Props to that. All right, well, let's get into the week in wrestling was, and I know this seems to be a very raw, heavy show going into last week post WrestleMania, but some of that fallout still remains. It looks like Seth Rollins is feeling himself in his new position alongside Paul Heyman. Braun Breaker's in the mix too, but despite of a challenge to get Sami Zayn off the board, it seems Paul Heyman's group is growing. Jack, I know there's been rumblings about adding people to the group, but right now, where do you stand on this Braun Breaker, Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman alliance?
I am very bullish on Braun Breaker. Very bullish on this team with Braun Breaker, Paul Heyman. When they were interacting together throughout the show, I thought, man, this is magic. And a lot of people kind of fantasy booked these two together, and a lot of people kind of assumed that they would come together at some point, and it just makes sense. Seth Rollins is someone who I've always said, probably for the past 15 years, has been, if you were to say over the past 15 years who your favorite wrestler is, it'd probably be Seth Rollins for me. A big Seth Rollins fan. Not super pumped about how he's starting his journey as the leader of a Paul Heyman group.
Well, why not? You asked for this. You predicted this.
I did ask for this, but I don't like that he's starting by making deals with people or trying to find middle ground, to try to work with people, not wanting to hurt people's feelings. I don't like that he tried to negotiate with Sami Zayn. I don't like that he tried to work with him, get him an opportunity for a world championship when Seth Rollins himself doesn't have a world championship opportunity. I don't like that Seth Rollins is acting like he doesn't have the cards, as they say, and is trying to work with people. I think what I wanted to see from Seth Rollins is a guy who says, I got the smartest man in pro wrestling, Paul Heyman. I got the strongest, most dangerous man in pro wrestling, Braun Breaker. And I'm the architect that has been on the verge of being the top of this industry for over a decade. I'm going to do what I want now. It's my time. And I wanted to see him run roughshod a little bit. I want to see him boss people around. I want to see him wag his finger at people. I wanted to see him poke some folks in the chest. I didn't like that he tried to do this the nice way. It, to me, felt like pre-Paul Heyman, Seth Rollins. I want a much more vicious and controlling Seth Rollins, because that's what you got to be if you want to be at the top of WWE. Roman Reigns, he does not play nice. He does not negotiate. CM Punk does not negotiate. Drew McIntyre does not negotiate. Randy Orton does not negotiate. John Cena does not negotiate. You can't be someone. Cody Rhodes does not negotiate. If you're someone who is already at your most powerful moment saying, listen, man, what if I give you a title shot to go somewhere else? That worries me, Flobo. That worries me.
Wow. I can't believe you being worried is actually making me worried, because you never worry about anything else. Listen, is this still salvageable? Because, I mean, look, to be fair, this is post-WrestleMania, and even though I know they're on fire right now, this is kind of the storytelling lull of the year, right? Did you get a little bit more grace to find the direction? Or you're saying, you know what, you already started off on the bad foot, perhaps I'm out?
No, there's definitely time. I mean, I'm not... A lot of people, they hop on these podcasts and they yell and they scream and they act like...
Yeah, that's what we do. That's what I do.
You know, that they'll see something and they'll be like, pro wrestling's been ruined because of this one moment. No, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's 1 week. It'll be okay. Next week's a whole new world.
Oh, hold on. Can you imagine if we were that kind of show? Like, welcome to Draped and Gold. It sucks. See you next week, y'all.
We'd have a lot more. We'd have a much bigger audience, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we should do that.
If I look at most of those shows, we'd have a much bigger audience.
Positivity does not sell. Right, go ahead.
But no, it's 1 week. And look, I think that at the very end of Raw, we started to get the Seth Rollins we needed. But so I think it's fine. I just felt like if we're judging this Raw in the vacuum that it was, I wanted more. I wanted someone who has a bit more control than the Seth Rollins we got.
Well, you and I were in that group chat, and we're talking about Raw as an entity this week. I think it was fine. It wasn't that was bad, but it really felt like a step down for what we were seeing about a month prior. And I just wanted to get your opinion about the state of the women's division. So we have some of our major players, Becky Lynch and Lara Valkyria. It looks like they're going to be on a collision course. We have some NXT-ish players on loan. If you look through almost a prism, one person can say, hey, look, the women's division is stronger than it ever was. We're getting some of the NXT people involved, some fresh divisions up, down. Or you can look at it and say, it's kind of random, right? It just seems like everyone's being a chance to crisscross applesauce and cross the streams of the two universes. I want to get your opinion on this one because I think I'm kind of leaning towards it being kind of messy.
Yeah, I think it's messy. I think a positive way to spin it would be say, it's a division in flux, right?
That is not positive at all. If someone said, how's it going? Well, things are in flux right now. I'm like, oh no, not the flux.
We're pivoting. And
not the pivot.
No. It does feel a little bit like they are taking some new wrestlers from NXT, throwing them in there to try to spice things up. I mean, when you have a dish and it's gotten stale, what do? You throw some seasoning on it, and that's what they're doing. They're adding some seasoning. It does feel a little bit like they're not sure where they want to go. And look, I haven't seen Unreal yet. I don't know how this all works. I don't know how the sausage is made.
You better leave Unreal alone.
But I haven't seen it. Once I've seen it, I will know everything. I will know all the secrets of pro wrestling. But the it's, to me, it's very, you got Julia and Roxanne, feels a little Aleister Black and Ricochet being a random NXT call-up tag team to me.
They're a random tag team that won the Dusty Cup. What'd I tell you? They were together for months.
They did win the Dusty Cup. But it feels a little bit like I like the two pieces, but I don't really understand why they're there or why they're a team. So that's a little weird to me. The Becky Lynch, Lyra Valkyria, Bayley, Liv Morgan, Raquel situation is very messy to me. I don't understand why you had a team going into WrestleMania as the number one contenders, to have one person taken out, to add a new person, for them to win the championships, to lose the championships back to the original team the next day, and then have that team say, well, one of us is going to be on break with the championship to go film a movie.
I have to defend that. That makes sense to me, though. That whole exchange makes, well, Bayley not going to WrestleMania will never make sense. But the fact that Bayley tagged with Becky tagged with Lyra made sense to me.
That makes sense, but it doesn't make sense that they win, they're best friends, and then the next day they lose, or maybe not the next day, it's 2 days later, whatever.
Yeah.
They lose, the title's right back to the team that they beat, and suddenly they hate each other.
Well, I would say if Becky came out and just beat up Lyra, you would totally, well, some people will complain and say, well, the last time we saw Becky, she shook Lyra's hand and respected her for losing the NXT title. So I get the fact she returned. And I get the idea of the Raw After Mania turn because it was like unexpected. But the thing is, and I told you this on our group chat, is like, I like Ava Valkyrie when she was NXT UK champ, but I almost feel like getting that title, the IC title in her case, kind of put a little bit of a hex on her because it's not really an emphasis. Like, oh yeah, she's a champ. How about that? That's cool.
Well, that's the problem, is since she's won the championship, it feels like she's been competing for other titles more than she's defended her own, which is something we fault other companies for doing very often. Is someone gets a championship randomly and then they don't defend it, or in matches to get other championships. It just feels like if you had the entire Becky thing could have happened the same way, except Bayley and Lyra lose the match at Mania, and then Lyra and Becky team up on Raw. They lose, and the same thing happens, and it's much cleaner, and you don't have the championship for some reason bouncing back and forth, and there's not this weirdness about the whole thing. It's weird. The whole thing feels very clunky to me and weird, and it feels like there was a lot of steps that didn't need to happen. It was something that I feel like our old friend Jimmy Corderas would say 20 pounds of potatoes in a 10-pound bag, or they would say, let it breathe. Quit trying to rush through all this stuff. I felt like a lot of stuff had to happen all at once that didn't really need to happen all at once.
Let the record state that Jack Farmer wanted to deny Becky Lynch a WrestleMania paycheck. That is sad. That is just a shame. A shame.
One thing I can't have is people paying bills.
Yeah, exactly. Rent to tomorrow. Chris Briggs says something I wanted to transition on. His poor Rusev. Now, Rusev had his promo, and to me, it was very, very interesting because not only did they explain who Rusev was, they explained his absence as an abyss, which is pretty funny. But it kind of like incorporated some of the Miro stuff. It incorporated the Redeemer stuff. I thought was pretty cool. It wasn't completely discarded. But then he appears in the tag team division, or he's breaking up a tag team matchup. Now, it is way too early to talk about burial and being lost in the shuffle. But if I'm Rusev and everyone's looking at you and you returned at the Raw after Mania, you must be thinking really hard to yourself that your first matchup has to be a banger.
Yeah, it does. And it's going to be good. This is definitely not buried or anything like that for him. It's weird he interrupted the situation he did. That was a weird thing, and that was a weird moment. Whatever, we got through it. I think that video package was fantastic. I'm all on board with that. The Redeemer stuff is stuff that I think a lot of people have been fantasy booking since he was in AEW. What would that look like in WWE? And they added something to this, the very subtle, very small, that I think will make this character work so well in WWE that wasn't there in AEW. And that was simply that he was going to redeem the people who didn't appreciate where they were or what they had or weren't taking it seriously enough. That's the difference. That gives him a reason to target people as opposed to just, I'm going to redeem you, which is kind of vague and okay, what does that mean? But if
details are scant.
Yes, details are scant. Dig in, details are scant. So I think that him having that now can say, look, I'm not trying to redeem Otis for, I don't know what that means or where you're going with that. But if you can say, Otis, you're always a joke. You're laughing. You're dancing. You don't take it seriously being a pro wrestler. I am going to redeem you because you're taking opportunities from people. That's something that gives him a reason to have matches, which is something he did not have previously.
I can't believe I'm defending this guy because you know how I feel about this guy. But isn't that not what Karrion Kross is doing right now? Is that not Karrion Kross's whole shtick of being like, you gotta be taken seriously?
No. Karrion Kross is the devil on your shoulder. So it's not about whether or not you're taking it seriously. He's just trying to get you to do things the wrong way. Now, he approached AJ Styles with that attitude. You got to take it seriously. You're defending pro wrestling, but you got to do it by using brass knuckles. You got to sell out. You got to do the evil thing. That's where Karrion Kross is. But he doesn't care if you take it seriously. He just wants you to do something wrong. That's why he's not going against like Akira Tozawa and Otis, because he doesn't care if they take it seriously. He just wants them to be evil.
Right. And Tozawa's a good guy. But you noticed how
unbreakable spirit, really.
How Kross changed his hair again to match Sami Zayn. And I was like,
yeah,
what are you doing, man? You go to Lexus King's barber. I was like, hey man, I need a tease for Monday night. Like, I don't know. It was kind of
I love it because I would love if he faced or had an interview with Lexus King and he got the beard done.
I'm sorry, Scarlett.
or if he had to deal, like he comes across Stone Cold and he wears just the most ridiculous bald cap.
Like he wouldn't even shave his head. He'd be like, look, man, I'm not going to fully commit to the bit.
It's a ball cap. You can see it's like all big because he has so much hair underneath.
Right. It's all lumpy and stuff.
You can see a few strands sticking out of it.
This is why we'd be the worst bookers ever. Like, wear a ball cap, pal. That's it. That's a grand open and grand close it.
Check. WWE went from its biggest gate ever to literally no one showing up after you book for 1 week.
Oh man, shout out to Ezekiel. Remember?
But after we see Unreal, we'll know.
Yeah, everything will be changing. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting about the whole Rusev thing. But one of the parts about Raw that I was like, this could be either really cool or really cringe is your boy Pat McAfee getting on top of the stage defending Michael Cole 7 days later to challenge Gunther to a match at Backlash. And GM for the evening, Nick Aldis, says, sure, you're on? Well, he wanted it tonight. Aldis says, know what? I want to beat you up in front of a bigger gate. Let's do it 3 weeks from now. What is going on here in Pandemonium where commentators can challenge former world champions for matches and they're granted that?
Well, I think you got to look at Nick Aldis, who says, listen, it's not my show, so I'm just going to let the inmates run the asylum. Why not? I just get to walk away from this after it's all said and done. Have you ever filled in for someone on their shift somewhere? And you know that once you're done with that shift, it's someone else's problem and not yours because that's not your jurisdiction. That's what
awful.
Aldis is doing. He's like, you win the match? Whatever, guy. I don't care. Just do it. So that's
why you're all this hater, bro.
Whatever, bro. I don't care.
Yeah, I can imagine if he said that. Look, whatever, brother. Like it just.
that's why he was like, yeah, have your match. Who cares? But don't forget that Pat McAfee tore it up in NXT before coming to the main roster, before getting called up. He was one of the standouts of the black and gold brand. Don't shake your head. He was incredible.
I am shaking my head because one, that was many, many moons ago. That was many, many college game days ago. And two, this isn't just taking on Pete Dunne, which is someone I really respect as a competitor, but at least size for size is pretty equal. Gunther is a giant with huge frying pan-like hands. This could be a death sentence. Over what? Getting embarrassed? He has an ESPN show. He's embarrassed daily. He should probably check his enthusiasm and say, you know what? I should go back behind the desk.
You know, there are some people that try to talk sense into idiots, Flobo, and then there are some people like me who say, you should try it. You should do it.
No.
So I'm saying right now to Pat McAfee, yeah, you may be facing some guy with frying pan hands and banana fingers that's going to chop you right across the chest. But you know what? You should go for it. Give it a try. Look at go. Yeah, I'm the guy when someone's playing with fireworks, I'm like, let's see how many you can shoot out of your mouth. I think that'd be pretty cool to see.
Okay, now this could be pretty awesome. Like I said, cool or cringe. But let me ask you this, because you are a pure wrestling enthusiast. You tell me that I should give AEW Collision a chance because it's pure graps in the most distilled form. You have arguably the biggest roster of all time. You just purchased AAA. There is a billion people that can fit in that slot of Backlash. And you're going with someone who is a commentator 6 months out the year against a former world champion. Who benefits from this?
If I told you that Adam Pearce, Scrap Daddy, was coming out of retirement to face Gunther, would you be okay with that?
Yeah. Because
if I told you Nick Aldis, former NWA World's Champion, was coming out of retirement to take on Gunther, would you say okay?
Barrel chested, heck yeah.
I look at The Rock, people want him to come back. Stone Cold, people are asking. I look at the legendary career in the ring of Pat McAfee, and I put him right up there with those Mount Rushmore of champions and say, I want him to come back as well. You know what? I'm happy with Goldberg coming back. I'm happy with Pat McAfee getting back in the ring. I say, let's do it. I think we're here to see it.
I think this is the worst decision I've ever seen on paper. Again, the match itself can be very entertaining, but I just kind of find it weird that we're talking about people being lost in shuffles and caterings and such, and you're dedicating time to the commentary team against a man who has killed other men with his bare hands, figuratively speaking. Come on.
Pat McAfee's last match was possibly one of, if not top 3, greatest matches in the history of WrestleMania, and you can't deny it, Flobo.
Yeah, okay, who would he fight?
He fought Redacted, and it was incredible.
And Redacted whipped his ass with a football.
with a football. But he took it. He was there for that moment, Flobo. You can't tell me that you were just like the fireworks that Pat McAfee brought to the ring. Remember when he got into the Royal Rumble and he almost won it?
He didn't even eliminate anybody. So, no,
I mean,
he didn't win it.
You know, it depends how late you get in there. But, I mean, he was a contender.
So was Drew Carey. Okay, I don't want to see him wrestle at all.
If Drew Carey wanted to come back and face Gunther, I would buy a ticket to that today.
You're the reason why we can't afford to go to shows anymore. You're just buying tickets left and right.
Gunther versus Drew Carey, sign me up.
Oh man,
whose line is it anyways, Drew? It's time for a chop.
I will see a murder on live television. We got to move on because Jack has lost his mind. To SmackDown, and arguably it was considered one of the greatest matches of the last decade. I'm talking about the main event: TLC, Street Profits, DIY, and the Motor City Machine Guns. This match was rumored to be in WrestleMania, was left off the card, and people are saying that 6 men had chips on their shoulders. The match itself was uploaded in its entirety on WWE.com, and YouTube almost universally praised. Jack, let me ask you this. Is it true, do you think, the speculation of the Street Profits going, oh yeah, I'm not going to Mania, let me show you? Or maybe that's just us just speculating on the outside. Thoughts about the match as well?
I thought it was fantastic. And the only problem with the Street Profits saying you're not going to put us on WrestleMania, we'll show you, is I think all 6 of these guys were saying, I'm going to show you. I think all 6 of them wanted to show us what they could do, whether it be the Street Profits, whether it be the Motor City Machine Guns, whether it be Johnny Gargano and the man standing in is Tommaso Ciampa without the beard.
Triple H! Triple H!
Tommaso Ciampa, it looks so much like one of those TV shows where they swap out the actors and they try to pretend it's the same person.
Oh yeah, seriously, he looks like he's a member of the Dyad. Remember that group?
The Dyad.
What the heck were we thinking back then? 2.0 was a trip.
The Dyad. Somewhere Joe Gacy's like, ugh, I got
exactly. 2.0 was that all gems, y'all.
Wasn't Ava in that group?
She was, yeah. This is why I didn't believe she was a general manager, because she was in the group. She walks backstage, goes to Shawn Michaels' office, and gets the job. I'm like, wait a minute. Aren't you in a cult? Did anyone not tell me what happened?
Triple H or Shawn Michaels like, listen, man, I don't care. You run the show.
Run the show. It's fine.
We'll let the cult person run the show. Sure, why not?
Love is blind. The match itself was pretty solid. Sorry, but cut you off.
But yeah, the match, I mean, yeah, it's a triple threat TLC match. This is what TLCs were built on, is the triple threat tag team formula. Now, people are saying it's the best in a decade. I don't remember the last time they had a triple threat tag team TLC, but man, it was incredible. It was awesome. And I think that this is where, again, I always talk about, people will go online and be like, it's not the match, it's the story that's important. And I'm like, man, matches are pretty cool too. Matches can be pretty cool. The story going into this match was not that fantastic. The story was nothing cool, was nothing special. But the match and the move, I mean, it's not the moves, it's the story. The moves were pretty freaking cool, and the moves made us all think,
whoa, watch your language. Show. All right. Jeez, it's a family show.
Like, it was awesome. Dawkins spearing Tommaso Ciampa from hanging from the championship to go through the table. Come on. Yeah, the move was cool. The moves made it freaking cool. It was a cool match. And so I'm finger wagging Flobo, all the people on Twitter and Threads and Blue Sky.
Whoa.
Who go on there and go, it's not the match, it's the story. Yeah, the story's cool, but sometimes the match is cool. Sometimes I want to see a good match, and this was a good match. Everyone's talking about it. I want everyone who has it's the story to go ahead, put that in their pocket for a little bit, and sit on it.
What? Oh, wow. Okay. The rant segment was later on today, Jack.
I started that, and I didn't know how it was going to end.
Well, I was going to say of the two, I do believe moves are more important than story, but I'm a character person, so I always have characters first. So to answer your question, the last triple threat tag team was TLC 2 back in 2001 at WrestleMania X7. Of course, TLC 3, the SmackDown one, had 4 teams, including Chris Jericho and Chris Redacted. But since
Redacted
then, though,
was busy the past couple days.
Redacted and vacant, man. For life. But to go back to the past TLC matches, I mean, we're going to go back as far as what's 10 years from here, 2015. I mean, it was single matches. AJ Styles with Dean Ambrose. The Shields took on The Miz, Braun Strowman, Kane, Cesaro, and Sheamus in a 5-on-3. Braun Strowman defeated Baron Corbin in 2018. Drew McIntyre defeated AJ Styles and The Miz in 2020. The Creed brothers defeated the Garzas in 23. So a lot of these are pretty forgettable. I mean, I can't imagine what happened in those. And so it's pretty good that this stipulation, which could have become faded through time, got a bit of a rejuvenation, so to speak.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they did it justice, because it's something that, and this is something Triple H leaned on when he really first got back in charge of things, was that these matches need to mean something. And if they came out there and it was like, okay, you know, it was a fine match, it was done, then the TLC match maybe wouldn't be as exciting as it once was. But they came in, they blew it out of the water. Now, whenever they do another TLC match, we have that expectation that is built in, that cachet that's built into it now. And so it's a bit like the Hell in a Cell, where now it's getting that cachet built, the War Games, it's getting that cachet built back into it. And so it actually means something. And I don't know when the next one's going to be, but I think the next time they do it, we're going to all be very excited for it, instead of just it being announced the same way a Falls Count Anywhere match is announced.
Yeah. Falls Count was pretty fun. I saw one this week at TNA Rebellion. It was in Los Angeles. Ali was out there doing a Falls Count Anywhere match. We were trying to help him out. Trying to help out him in the Secret Service, or his 4 more. That was pretty cool.
Do you want to talk about that? I want you to talk about that. Is this a good time to go into it, or do you want to talk about
You know what? I was going to do the Jack Red segment, but let's do it right now. TNA Rebellion was interesting for me for a lot of reasons, because I went to WrestleMania the week before, and for one, the price to get into TNA was pretty affordable. I mean, ringside tickets were $130. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I felt like a VIP. Top to bottom, the show was actually easy breezy. I felt a lot more engaged with the actual product, whereas WrestleMania was more of the spectacle. But TNA really is bringing it. And here is a roster that, like the name suggests, is hard to kill. But there are some people I remember, like Sidney Akeem, a.k.a. Reggie. And then, of course, you got Joe Hendry. And, of course, you got Matt Cardona. But then there's a bunch of fresh faces like Casey Navarro, someone who may be able to have his own breakout year as well. And so top to bottom, this is not the TNA that we may have written off 10 years ago. This isn't the TNA that we thought had a glimmer of hope in 2020. This is a bona fide new iteration that people should give a shot if they have access to AXS TV.
Anyone, I mean, you mentioned Casey Navarro, who's a very exciting young wrestler, up and coming to follow. Anyone else that kind of stood out to you that you think maybe people should go out of their way to check out?
So that whole Ultimate X match had a
Trick Willie.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, check him out, especially at the end of it. Spoilers, no. That Ultimate X match had a lot of players in there. I mean, the eventual winner, Leon Slater, looks like the one who really won the night and stole the show. Again, this iteration of Ali is really, really compelling. NXT UK fans will be in love with Spitfire, which is Jody Threat and Danny Luna of Subculture. Give it up. Those were pretty cool. That match had to be going crazy as well. And, you know, as much as I don't like the system, that's Moose and Eddie Edwards and Alicia Edwards, I like the fact they're able to become the big bad that needs to be, like the ones that can interfere in matches and really set the pace of some things as well. So there's a lot of people in the roster I would like. The former Xia Li, Yingling Li is on the roster. I was looking for her merch. She was not there on that show. But yeah, there's some people in there I can actually dig.
So which show did you have more fun at, WWE or TNA?
Fun TNA for a bunch of reasons. I mean, it's smaller venue, so you feel the energy more as far as like being in a wrestling show. The chairs were padded. That's a problem for us, ETL. You don't know what you're going to get with the actual accoutrements.
Yeah.
We were 20 feet from the commentary table. It really felt that we were part of the show. So, and if there was somebody who didn't really know wrestling at all, I would feel a lot more comfortable taking them to a TNA show and say, hey, look, we're in a venue that holds 5,000. This is kind of a cool thing. As like WrestleMania has like the spectacle is great, but can be sensory overload if you're not used to it.
Yeah, it's very different. I know a lot of wrestling fans, they think the best ticket you can get is WrestleMania. And look, WrestleMania is an experience. And if you're a wrestling fan, you should definitely check it out. But that smaller shows can be awesome. Indie shows even, but TNA really is a fun show to go to. And yeah, Leon Slater, if you haven't seen that incredible delayed 450 off the top of the Ultimate X, go check out your Twitter feed right now. Well, wait till the show's on, because like that move in general is I don't know how he defies gravity with that thing. I don't know how he does that. It looks like, remember back in 2K when you could make off the top rope moves and like they look like they just stay in the air for a long time.
Right.
That's what it looks like he does. He just like stops, spins, and then goes down. But it's cool.
Also, sorry, for women's division, the women's tag team division, even though we love Ash by Elegance, Heather by Elegance is really growing by leaps and bounds as well. She really carried that team. That's what I thought if you're into the women's tag style of wrestling as well. But yeah, I know I was told today not to talk about the Leon Slater move with my interview with Casey Navarro, which will be uploaded to the Wrestling Chatter this week. But I had to because it was just that cool. And Masa Samovich as well. So let me ask you this, man. It's Wednesday night. You know what that means. AEW wrapped up a couple hours ago by this point of estimation. And you and I were talking about how AEW can get its swag back and what's missing and what's working and what's not working. So I said I'll put the floor in your court to really let us know, the wrestling peons, what AEW can do to get back into being the 5-star promotion it could be.
Yeah, so people who know me, and you know this is me, like I get an idea in my head or a thought in my head, and it'll just jangle around in there forever until I figure out what I'm trying to figure out there. And this was something that you asked me about AEW and what I think they could do to sort of get some of their mojo back, get the feeling back, as they've been saying. I think they've been doing a lot of good stuff lately, and I think they've had a lot of good shows lately. But I look at the history of AEW, and I look at the history of wrestling, and some companies they're bad guy centric. You look at late period WCW in the 90s, the NWO ran things. You look at early WWF in the 80s when they had Hulk Hogan running things and everyone loved him and he was the good guy versus the bad guys in the NWO. And I look at AEW and it feels like they really want to have one of these companies where the bad guys are running control and there's the good guy chasing them, right? I think it's very Four Horsemen, Ric Flair. It's very NWO. And that's what they go for. You look at the history, how they have John Moxley as the champion for a long time with the Death Riders. You look at MJF holding the championship for a long time. But when I look at the times when AEW was the most enjoyed and people were really behind it, it's typically when you have the people that the fans love front and center. When you look at the first run of John Moxley after he defeated the Inner Circle and was the champion defending against everybody. You look
the
at
Inner Circle. What the hell is that?
You know, when you had Hangman Adam Page win the championship after a long chase and having the championship. CM Punk, for all the ups and downs during his time, people loved CM Punk as the champion. People loved it when Swerve was the champion. Those are the times when people seem the happiest. I look at the time when people seem the most frustrated with AEW. And it's like now with the Death Riders who aren't good guys as the champions. And you look at the time of, again, MJF. And when he was the champion, a lot of people are starting to go, what's going on? I'm not really into this. And so I think on a broader scale, if I'm AEW, I think I'd want to start focusing more on having the fans have someone they could cheer, hold the championship, a lot more like a Hulk Hogan in the 80s did, a lot more like a John Cena did for a long time, and be that kind of company where the person that we all love is the champion, the person that we all love is the focus, and not someone that we don't like. I think we're going to get that, and I'm hoping we're going to get that soon at All In with the winner of the Owen Hart Cup.
No more shades of gray. You want good guys, bad guys, white hats, black hats. Is that what it is?
I want all the hats. I want purple hats, blue hats.
Yeah, I like it. Look, you and I both go back and forth about how I'm a hater of AEW, though I don't think I am. No, I'm not a hater. Stop
No one ever
it.
admits they're haters.
But I'm not. No, I admit I'm a hater all the time. I hate Sami Zayn and Ska. I hate when my guys don't get to go to
That's bad
WrestleMania.
taste.
Okay, you know what? I'm just saying. But you always want as many wrestling promotions to be as hot as possible because you want to be able to have people options when you say, check out this art form. So I am rooting for AEW on some level, but I do think something needs to change. I'm not sure if it's visual or roster-wise or what have you, you know?
Yeah. I mean, again, I think if you're watching their shows, they've been on an upswing. I think they've had a lot of good stuff going on. I'm not saying they're knocking everything out of park. Every time you say something nice about AEW, you get someone who picks out one thing and goes, well, what about this? I'm not saying they're perfect. No show is. I'm just saying,
was that like a 1930s beat reporter? Oh, shit.
Yeah, you don't get those guys.
Why do you say that, sir?
My Telegram goes nuts when I say something. I got the little like strip of paper that's coming out.
It's like, who are these people, man? Hey, that's what's up. No, I hear what you're saying. It is very much bad feedback when you have any kind of criticism. I get it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the WWE real quick because we got a decision kind of sort of with the whole MJF Bobby Lashley hurt Syndicate thing. It looked like Bobby Lashley was going to put himself in the bar, but no, he says no, he's not getting MJF in their group, but he says almost a challenge to MJF that he should probably go out and start hurting people. Does MJF really take his advice, you think, or is this going to be a start of something else?
Well, now I'm thinking it would have been great if Claudio came out and was like, we are the bar, and you had a new bar, and they just suddenly started barring
One of my
around.
favorite tag teams of all time.
Dude, so good. But it's interesting to me. I think that when you bring in a new talent, right? You bring in someone like the Hurt Syndicate, and you think about what they can do and what they could do for themselves and what they can do, as far as like Bobby Lashley as champion, Shelton Benjamin as AEW champion, and MVP as AEW champion. I don't know how much ring time he has left. I feel like he always looks like he could crush it in the ring, but he doesn't for some reason. But
right.
And you think about where they can go. And I was watching this Dynamite in particular, and for people who haven't watched it, I recommend going back and checking it out. And the interaction with Bobby Lashley, who has been someone who, frankly, there have been times when you wonder what he can do character-wise. And I'm talking like 5 years ago, before the Hurt business started, Hurt Syndicate started, back when he was just like doing flexing competitions and stuff.
Bend over, Lashley.
Yeah.
That was actually a real, I'm not just saying that in general. I mean, that actually did happen. Wait a minute. Wait, yeah.
And you know what? That wasn't the worst.
True, because he actually did bend over. Lashley.
So it's fascinating knowing that. I'm watching this, and I'm seeing what I think to be some of the best work MJF has ever done across from Bobby Lashley because of Bobby Lashley and because of how Bobby Lashley's acting. The fact that someone like Bobby Lashley was able to manhandle MJF and be like, listen, if you want to be in this group, you're going to have to hurt people. You're going to have to take it to another level. MJF has always been the person who's been above everybody else as far as the money, the wrestling. He's going to take things further than everyone else. Bobby Lashley has MJF beat in every way, shape, and form when it comes to that. He dresses like $1 billion. He can out wrestle anybody. He's stronger than anybody, and he'll hurt you more than MJF will. And so this is the first time MJF has to step up his game. And the fact that MJF you can see it in how MJF's reacting. And you can see it when he's pushed in that corner and finally being bullied himself and finally being put on the ground and thinking, oh my God, I'm the weak link now. I'm the weaker person. And this is the best place for someone like MJF to be because it's fresh, it's new, and it's something that will now give MJF something to work on. I always say it's not what you are, it's what you aren't that makes you interesting, and leaning into the things you aren't. And this is I know we've already had two redacted, but there was a rapper who once said, who's also been redacted now, everything I'm not made me everything I am. Oh. And I feel like this is the Redacted podcast.
This whole episode of people we can't even talk about.
But I do think that's what makes people interesting. It's the things that they're not. You look at Stone Cold. Stone Cold, it wasn't who he was that made him interesting. He wasn't, and he was not a corporate champion. He was not a company man. That's what made him interesting. The Rock, he was not a wrestler. He was a Hollywood star. That's what made him interesting. MJF, now we're seeing him be stuck in what he is not, and that is what's going to make him interesting.
Got to give a big shout out to Cedric Wilton and the Kings of Pod. He says, Cedric Wilton, part of the WWT crew, got me to be on not one, but 2 shows in the last 7 days. Something the boss lady couldn't do herself, because when Cedric Wilton calls, he pick up the phone.
Said Says is Gem. Everyone should follow him on social media at Said Says.
Yeah, we should do that. You know what? As we have to basically wind this down already, this is like the quickest hour in wrestling podcasting history, I feel like. I think we just go boom, 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 boom. But I really want to get your opinion real quick about the Owen Hart tournament. We have our finals. They're set up. It's going to be a little bit of one more match at the desert, one more match to be determined at Beach Break. No, help me out here. The day of the pay-per-view.
The match will happen. The winner goes to All In.
There we go.
Double or nothing.
Double or nothing. Exactly.
Yeah.
Double or nothing. I was like, it's not Beach Break. It's not all. Yeah, double or nothing.
Break, which is in Chicago.
There's a beach on the lake. Have you not heard the lake effect?
Lakes do not have beaches. I will die on this beach. If you're at a lake, it's not a beach. Beaches are for the ocean. Rivers don't have beaches.
Right.
Pools don't have beach. I'm not on the mud puddle ocean.
People go out
on the ocean to be at the beach.
People go out on the sand in Chicago with the little coolers, and they have a good time on the lake.
There's sand in the desert doesn't mean it's a beach.
Anyway, Owen Hart tournament is about to be wrapped up, but the one side I have the most questions about is on the ladies' side, because Mercedes Moné has a challenge against a chance to be the next AEW Women's Champion if she so chooses. But Jack, she has too many belts already. Or am I crazy?
I mean, that's the whole point of being a belt collector. Am I right? That's why you do it. So to try to collect the belts. But who's going to be the one that does it? Does Toni Storm stop her? Or does Mercedes Moné keep her collection? I mean, that's what's kind of interesting about this, is because these are the 2 hottest females in AEW right now. As far they're both unstoppable. Come
on, Cedric.
Cedric
he hates the beach and lakes.
Cedric agrees. Yeah, I mean, if Cedric agrees, then I think it's case closed, right?
I do not argue with Cedric. He's just too cool. I just can't.
Bang the gavel. If it's not an ocean, it's not a beach.
Fair enough. Sorry, Chicago. We're moving later. We're going to Panama City next week.
We'll call it Lake Break instead.
That is so lame. It's like the parents who had the 1 week timeshare out there in the woods, man. That's awful.
Let's go to Lake Break.
No.
Everyone who lives by a lake is gonna hate me.
Grandma's house on the lake.
Ugh, lakes. It's like bath water.
Right. Step down.
What was I saying? Yeah. So I mean, look, this is what dream matches are made of, right? Champions going against champions, people who are unbeatable going against people who are unbeatable. This is a fascinating matchup, assuming that Mercedes can get through Jamie Hayter.
Yeah, it seems pretty much a foregone conclusion. And here's the reason why I feel this way. Jamie Hayter should be a marquee talent. She should be on the poster. She should be on the souvenir cups. She has a very unique look. The mod stuff works for me. But Mercedes Moné called her a cartoon character, and then an hour later ran away from her while not being chased by her. To me, it seems Jamie Hayter's walking away with a dub, no?
I hope so. Jamie Hayter is someone who I think it's been her time for a long time. Was she champion when she got hurt? Did she lose the championship before she got hurt?
I know she was in the picture. I'm not sure if she actually had I've double checked that.
But in any case, she's someone who should be in the title picture, should have been for a long time. And I think that she's been painfully underused on TV. She's someone who should be having a matchup every couple of weeks. I'd say every week, but AEW typically has like a rotation where it's not, where it's not, they don't typically have the same people wrestle every week. So I would say like every 2 or 3 weeks, she should be wrestling matches.
So to clarify, Jamie Hayter was a one-time women's champion. This is when Thunder Rosa was hurt. They had the interim title where she had defeated Toni Storm on November 19th, 2022 and held the title for 190 days.
There you go.
Thanks, Cage Match / Wicked. Yeah. So on the other side, I thought we were going to get a run back of Kyle Fletcher and your boy Will Ospreay. Wasn't the case. I like it though. Adam Page, he's kind of cool. I kind of miss the old theme song, but maybe it's gone and never to come back again.
I bet it's one of those theme songs that'll come back someday, and we're all going to go nuts for it.
Like Basic Thugonomics. Yeah, I get it.
Oh, dude, if Basic Thugonomics came on, it's a bummer with John Cena now. We'll never hear Basic Thugonomics. Never going to happen.
They should do it in his last match, just to say, all right, goodbye, everybody. Put the boots in the ring.
They should use his prototype music. Well, that's...
Oh, no, that was his prototype music was like...
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Just a generic wrestling mush. I know we split them now. I split them, but the one-day Manias, 35 is my favorite because we got not only Kofi Mania, but we got the Basic Thugonomics entrance. Remember that? Throwing them back there.
That's a good one.
Yeah, let's start over to NXT as we have to go through everything that's happening on that brand because it seems that, more importantly, the TNA World Champion is basically doing double duty, right? Joe Hendry successfully defended his title over at Rebellion this weekend in Los Angeles before I was 7 feet away of Trick Williams knocking him in the face, getting some payback for Joe Hendry calling him a crybaby and entitled. But Joe Hendry comes back on Tuesday night this week to settle the score, but Dark State gets involved. Question for you, Dark State, Trick Willie, it's notable, right? Trick Willie has an army? Question mark?
Well, first off, we got to give a shout out to Joe Hendry and his travel schedule. I mean, you were the one that pointed me out to this, but Can you read off what was his travel schedule like this past week?
So not only after doing Mania, he did tapings for Impact, and then he came out to Los Angeles. Then we went to Orlando first for NXT, went to Los Angeles after that for TNA Rebellion, came back to Orlando for NXT, and is now on a plane flying back to Irvine, California, which is about 60 miles from Los Angeles to do the TNA Impact tapings. And that's just in the past 14 days.
So in 14 days, he's crisscrossed the United States more times than your shoelaces go over your foot,
quite literally.
But something about this, man, Joe Hendry comes out and to start off NXT and he's angry. He's upset. Like, I mean, you could see he was very frustrated at the fact that someone came to TNA, his brand, his show, and got involved. I mean, yeah, how does it feel, Joe Hendry? TNA people have been coming to NXT for months now. And yeah, you expect us to roll out the red carpet here on NXT. But as someone goes over to TNA and suddenly it's like, I got to go over there and I got to have a big problem and blah, blah, blah. No, Joe Hendry, that's what you get. That's what you get, TNA-er, sending all of your wrestlers over to NXT all the time. We're going to send some NXT folks over to you. How do you like it?
My man's
you made your bed. Sleep in it.
My man's been figure wagging forever, Charlotte Killer Demon 69. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Joe Hendry is kind of sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. But we all love to see his face. Why not go where you're wanted? My mom always says, only rats and roaches go where you're not wanted. And people love Joe Hendry.
People do love Joe Hendry, but I think Joe Hendry had to learn the hard way what happens when you go stepping on other people's toes. I mean, you can't take someone's spot in WrestleMania. You can't go butting in and getting title shots and whatnot in NXT and expect no one to come get some revenge. That's what happens. I think Dark State is the real heroes here, doing the dirty work that no one else wants to do and cleaning things up and getting Joe Hendry out of there. I think Dark State are the heroes, even if they don't wear capes, Flobo.
Dark State being the heroes is something you probably hear on like MSNBC or something, or like Newsmax. But yeah, but Patrick Weldon has a good point here about the men's division, especially at the top of the card. Trick Williams is somebody who is decorated in NXT, but really has nowhere to go as far as he believes. He even said he's too big for Tuesday night. And Obafemi doesn't have a challenger for his title as well. In fact, Ava said it's going to be a 25-man battle royal where even involved talents will be able to compete for a chance for Obafemi's title. And so to have Joe Hendry go between these two promotions makes it seem that there's a lot of guys in NXT right now, whether they want to or the perception is not going for the brass ring.
I think this is a case of you've got two stars in Obafemi and Trick Williams who are just too big for this for NXT. I mean, they're absolute superstars, and it makes it very hard to find people that you can stack up to them. And that's why they've been in each other's face for what feels like 6 months now, because that's the big matchup. I mean, no disrespect to anyone else, but who else do I want to see Trick Williams against in NXT? I mean, Trick Williams is a NXT caliber, championship caliber wrestler. I don't want to see him having matches for funsies with someone else. I don't want to see Obafemi defending the championship against people who aren't as good as a Trick Williams is, knowing Trick Williams is right there. That's the problem. They've got people who are just too good right now, and it just makes it too hard to find someone that can really face them and be believable.
I feel sorry for Ava. And the reason being is like the inmates are running the asylum. Look what's going on with the family. Tony D betrayed by Channing Stacks Lorenzo. Channing was like, look, man, I did what I can. I was a good soldier, but I'm a soldier no more. The family is afraid. We don't know where Luke is. We don't know where Adriana Rizzo, a.k.a. Riz, is these days. Jack, I mean, if you're Tony D, this could be your swan song, is it not?
I mean, I think that the first thing Tony D'Angelo needs to do, really, is apologize to Stacks. He needs to apologize for everything he put that man through. I mean, I see everyone saying like Stacks was a rat, by the way. No, Stacks gave body and soul to the family and got nothing in return. He got nothing. You had
nothing?
The Dawn in prison. Stacks could have let him rot there and taken over the family. Stacks could have let him rot there and been the man. He could have been the one getting all the singles championship shots. He could have been the one that went on to be the North American champion. But no, he risked it all and saved Tony D. He was the first person to take a bullet for Tony D every single time for years. Since this brand was the rainbow colored brand of 2.0, Stacks has been there, even as dimes ended up getting thrown off a bridge, even as people were getting taken out.
It was 2 dimes.
He stayed there no matter what and did everything for Tony D. But what has Tony D ever done for Stacks? He never gave Stacks a championship shot. By the way, like, and look, and for precedent, Solo Sikoa absolutely trying to get Jacob Fatu a United States championship shot. He didn't hold him down. He didn't say it's just about me. He said, yeah, here's a title shot. Roman Reigns, hey, Usos, go get the tag team titles. I want to help you out. Tony D never put himself second to Stacks, no matter what Stacks did. Every single time there was an opportunity for the family, Tony D took it for himself. Stacks did what he had to do because he was sick of constant failure again and again and again, waiting for Tony D to do something right or Tony D to give him an opportunity. Stacks had to take his own destiny into his own hands. Stacks was right, and Tony D should apologize and start listening to the guy who's been right since day one.
I'm going to be honest with you, man. Maybe this made sense on the mean streets of the NXT parking lot. But I was under the impression the family works on elevated business. And so you're someone who swore to be the underboss. If you don't want to do that role anymore, there are plenty of other guys that will take that spot. You don't go out there and take the food off the plate of the man that gave you the opportunity. You sit them down. I would totally support that. That's not what Stacks did. And he should be punished for doing that, Jack.
You know what happens in the family if you go to them and you complain? You end up like Two Dimes. You end up getting thrown off a bridge. That's what Two Dimes was like, hey, I don't see this going very well. Gone. Haven't seen him in NXT ever since.
Andrew Gulak.
Andrew Gulak. Like, if you see this, you don't show your hand. Tony D had years to give Stacks an opportunity. Had years to help him out and give him just a little bit of something. Never once did Tony D ever say, you know what? I had a shot at Obafemi. I failed. How about you get a shot next time?
Okay.
How about this? Hey, I'm the North American champion, Stacks. You've done such a good job for me. You've always been there. You're the reason I'm here. How about you and I have a match? I'll give you my first championship shot. Did it ever happen? No. Wasn't even a point of conversation.
Let's compare it to Metaphor this week with Noam Dar back and becoming the 4-time Heritage Cup champion. They thought it's going to be a celebration, but Last Legend says, hey, look, we were all together. We knew that you were the leader, Noam, but Ora Mensa's on Wednesday night with Evolve. Me and Jakara Jackson were a guys tag team, but we're going to go our separate ways. We respect each other. Let's work it out. What they didn't do was start throwing nut shots and costing people opportunities, Jack. That's how you break up the right way.
I'm sorry. Did Oro Mensa get thrown off a bridge?
No, that's my point.
Did Last Legend get Drew Gulak?
No one gets Drew Gulak but Drew Gulak.
Then this is irrelevant. I mean, they can have this because they can talk to each other like this. Tony D was so selfish that he had to make everything about himself. You couldn't have that kind of breakup. By the way, Metaphor, that was a heartbreaking breakup. This was like watching Jim and Pam say that it wasn't going to work out.
Are you serious?
It was devastating to me.
Are you devastating? It was devastating?
I was devastated by this. This was terribly sad. Like, it was like a final episode. I mean, seeing Noam Dar there by himself gave me Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in the living room by himself vibes.
He has the championship. He'll be fine.
Like, he has the championship. He'll be fine. They'll all be fine. They'll go off their separate ways. But it's sad. It's a family that's breaking apart. And I'm glad that they were able to part as friends. But I'm very sad that this journey is over. I was seriously hurt by this. I was seriously bummed out by this, Flow Boss. It made me sad.
I am sad if the Meta girls break up, but I will say at TNA Rebellion.
They are breaking up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting there. But I will say at TNA Rebellion, I was fine with it because of everyone in that match, there were more chants for Jakara Jackson than anyone else, which threw me off. I was like, interesting. Not in a bad way. It was kind of like, oh, I get it. Maybe she's the one that's ready to break out and shine. Even though we've talked about Last Legend for years on the show, maybe Jakara Jackson has a chance to really come out there. But yeah, Metaphor as a group always confused me. They never explained how they got together, so I never got invested. But hey, look, if it made you sad, then mission accomplished.
That's the whole thing was there, so I could be hurt.
Yeah.
As I was watching this, the whole time I was thinking when Noam Dar was like, it's just me and you. I was thinking, Shaw Samuels, where are you? Shaw Samuels, we need you to be the bookie of NXT. Show up.
If you have not seen Shaw Samuels work with Noam Dar, go to YouTube. Gold. Comedic gold. These and bookie. Shaw Samuels.
Shaw Samuels is a treasure. I will pound the pavement. I will pound the table. I want Shaw Samuels in NXT. He is just a treasure. I posted on Twitter today about how it lives rent-free in my head. About once a month, I just remember him yelling at commentary to call him Shaw Samuels and not Ed Harvey, which may not make sense to anyone who hasn't seen it, but it is the most legendary move in all of pro wrestling.
And then he became a bookie and started taking odds of the matches on that day's card backstage. He was collecting bets on the main event while it was happening. That's NXT UK, man. Before the library moves again to Netflix or something and it gets lost, please, if you have an hour or two, go back. I suggest watching the 2019 years to see the crowds and maybe the 2022, 23 years towards the end to see how it kind of ended up. But NXT UK was just the reason why I'm a re-wrestling fan, because I say it a bunch of times. I was going to leave wrestling and do something else, but UK brought me back in, especially Guta.
This whole show really is because of NXT UK.
Yeah, exactly. There would be no Draped in Gold if it wasn't for NXT UK. Last question before we get out of here. On SmackDown, we had the reappearance of Aleister Black. Still with that eye injury. That's about 5 years old now. But there's been a lot of buzz around Aleister Black and a lot of buzz that Zelina Vega, his real life, is the United States champion. Would you want to see them together? Is it a coincidence, a coinky dink, if you say? What do you think that's going to happen with Aleister Black?
One, happy for Zelina Vega, someone who's been putting in work for a very long time. So it's cool to see her have her moment. Aleister Black, I thought was great. I think that I think something like The Miz is perfect for him to debut against, to have this moment. I see online some people fretting over The Miz. I think Miz is a perfect person for someone like Aleister Black to target for a million reasons that we don't have time to get into. But I think he's got a very bright future as far as them together, only if it makes sense.
Wait. What? We got some time. Wait, why? I actually agree with you, but why is Miz perfect for Aleister?
Well, first and foremost, Miz is a big name in pro wrestling. People can argue and complain about Miz all they want, but he's everything he says he is. A two-time Grand Slam champion, a WrestleMania main eventer, beat John Cena for the title at WrestleMania. He's incredible. And he's also someone who Aleister Black has the ability to beat and can make Aleister Black look incredible in that win. You know, if you have Aleister Black start in a rivalry with someone like Cody Rhodes, he ain't winning. So have him beat somebody. Like it's just smart.
I like it. I'm a big fan of The Miz. I'm glad that most people are coming around to The Miz, but I have a friend of mine who just can't stand him. He's like, name me one good Miz match, which is always a bad thing because if you don't like the guy, I can name you a billion matches and you'll still hate them. Like, that's right. Wrestling fan logic is the worst. But that said, there's a reason why if someone's not clicking in a way we think they can, they put him with The Miz. I'm wearing a Carmelo Hayes shirt. You know I'm a big Carmelo Hayes fan. We can also argue that his SmackDown run hasn't been the best, but Melodome Miz kind is working.
It's working. You know, a lot of people have said it's not the best. I'm not saying it's the best, but like, let's not pretend that Carmelo Hayes hasn't had banger match. You know, name a good match. Hasn't had great matches with Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton and like not just anybody, but like the Hall of Famers, top of the industry people.
Yeah, Carmelo Hayes is the future. Depends how that shakes out because the roster is as big as it is. But I think it's very telling. Like I think the Andre the Memorial Battle Royal is always like the, hey man, we haven't really forgot about you. You can't come tomorrow, but next time, bro, title, and that's Carmelo Hayes, and he got it. So props to him.
Right? Yeah. I think he'll have a very bright future. He's one of my all-time favorites right now. Not all-time favorite, but favorites. Like currently wrestling.
That's the opposite of all time.
I know. That's why I corrected myself.
I'm the all time. No, the opposite of that. You're the best. Actually, you're the worst, Jack.
That's why I corrected myself. I mean, he might be one, but he's still young. He's a child still. Let the man have a career before we start putting him in all-time lists.
At our age, everyone's a child. Cedric Welton says, Monday Night Mellow has to happen post-draft, and whether or not agree or disagree is besides the point, but with the transfer portal, are we even having a draft?
I don't know. I don't know. Transfer portal, I'm still not completely sold on, but I think the transfer portal is actually better long-term because I think our expectations are lower. I think with draft, we have such high expectations. We expect earth-shattering craziness that's going to make everything incredible right away, where with the transfer portal you don't have that. You're just kind of like, oh, this person moved, that's cool, oh, that's a good switch or whatever, you know what I mean? So I think it takes away that fake expectation that we shouldn't have had in the first place.
Yeah, the draft should either be NXT only or it should be something where it's like not someone reading 5 names off a card every 2 minutes. But the transfer portal had no rules. It's just like, yeah, next month or so, yeah, have at it. And that was it. This is episode 178 of Draped. 179 of Draped in Gold. And every week, Jack and I break down the news and notes of wrestling. If there's something a show you want us to cover, make sure you know in the comments below. But Jack, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Next 7 days, you seem to be a busy man. Where are you going? Where are you being booked? Tell me.
Yeah, I'm going to be at Santino Bros Fight Night. The final shot happening tomorrow in Azusa, California. If you're in town, come check it out or see it live on Triller TV. I will be on the call for that one. Santino Bros show's always good. We've been doing some really cool stuff, and I have a feeling some big announcements are going to happen tomorrow, but you got to tune in to be a part of that. I've been very fortunate, Flobo. I got to call some incredible shows during the collective. I was over at Championship Wrestling last night. Things have been cooking for Jack Farmer. I'm just waiting for that big moment, Flobo, where I get to say, I'm out of here, Flobo. Signed by a big company. I'm done with you.
Yeah, I get that because you're out there scoring points and I'm on the bench. No, I'm actually in catering. It's all right, man. It's
hey, okay. If you're in catering, you get the food.
I know, right? Like, I'm not even on the squad. I'm just like taking the food and taking it back to my room. Hey, guys, good luck at the game on Sunday. As for me, I'm doing nothing. And it's pretty sad, actually. Yeah, check me out on justasandwich.com. It's my blog. Talk about sports, comedy, everything in between. I actually have a write-up about my experience at WrestleMania last week over at justasandwich.com. And I'm trying to work on the baseball thing as well. If you check out the Black Baseball Mixtape, my show In the Booth talks about the sport for people who love it from the fandom side. That's available wherever you get your podcast. But this podcast, Draped in Gold, it's also available wherever you get your downloads as well. Jack, we've been through a lot, man. 179 episodes, and I can't wait to do it again with you next week. But if I wanted to follow you right now, how do I go about doing that?
You can follow me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. That's where all the updated stuff is, so see me there.
Yeah, and I'm at Football Boys on that Blue Sky and that X/Twitter. We'll be back next Wednesday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Let us know if the nighttime slot works for you. I'm just kind of curious. But until that time, my friend, please say the words.
Do your best and be yourself.
Nah.